I started my policing career in Northern Ontario, where I worked as a paramedic. And as it turns out, I was playing hockey with a bunch of police officers. Big surprise playing hockey in Northern Ontario. And the police was hiring, and because I'm a francophone, I'm actually French is my primary language. I speak better French than English. And they were like, "Hey, you're bilingual. Ontario has a lot of bilingual areas. We're looking for bilingual people, and you're already in emergency services. Why don't you apply?" So I did apply, and the recruiter that was there when I went to a recruiting session just left this big impression on me. He had stories. He'd worked on a tactical team. He'd patrolled on a motorcycle. He'd worked in northern remote communities, and I was just captivated by his stories. And I thought, wow, I want to do what you do. That was his hook. I was like, okay, I'm in. And I knew that one day I wanted to do what he did. I said, it'd be nice at the end of my career to be able to share and influence the next generation of police officers, just the way he did with me. And when I got hired, I worked in Northern Ontario for 9 years. Uh, Kind of neat, got to patrol on snowmobiles, four-wheelers, the kind of stuff that people don't really envision. But they are thousands and thousands of snowmobile trails in Northern Ontario that the Ontario Provincial Police has to police. Accidents happen on them, contraband is carded on them, remote cottages get broken into, farms get stolen. This all happens, and there's no way to get there by car.
Yeah.
In the summer, it would be on an ATV. And there's a reason why we have all these different vehicles. There's no motorcycles up in Hearst where I was, because I mean, winter lasts, 6 to 7 months. But when you think of the Toronto area, they have motorcycles there because when you get a big traffic jam on a multi-lane highway, the cruisers can't get to it. But a motorcycle can go down the shoulder and through the ditch. And so I got to do some neat patrolling because of stuff like that in Northern Ontario. And it's from there that I went to work undercover after 9 years. And I was in a physical surveillance unit, and that's the art of following people without them knowing they're being followed. Whether that's in a car, you could be following three, four cars behind, and you wouldn't know that that's an undercover officer in that pickup truck way back there. Unless I'm not doing my job well, you're like, I think I'm being followed. So you're supposed to be, you get trained to become an expert at following, but then you could be on foot also. All of a sudden your target parks at the mall and is going shopping. Well, now you're shopping. Now I got to look like a shopper, like I belong where, and it's just all happening on the fly. So that's the type of work I was doing in physical surveillance for about a year. From there, I went back to uniform to the Toronto detachment. And now you imagine French kid from Northern Ontario in Hearst, one traffic light. Now I'm in Toronto, 16 lanes of traffic. And I'm on a Harley Davidson. I knew how to ride a motorcycle, but this was a whole different ball game being on these highways. But I loved it. I got to do motorcycle patrol, which was very exciting. From there is when I joined the emergency response team, one of our frontline tactical units. So that's a bigger commitment to fitness. They're trained in so many different things like containment. They'll do search and rescue, VIP security. When important people come, they're trained in bodyguard type duties or, during elections or one of my claim to fame stories from then is when I was with the emergency response team. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. Oh, yeah, I'm going there. Guess who got the bodyguard, the Terminator? Yeah,
Yeah.
just
That's
saying,
awesome.
no big deal. So he was coming to Toronto for some meetings, and our team was assigned to work with his detail of the California Highway Patrol, and we got the bodyguard, the Terminator. So it was kind of neat thing. Because I'm French, whenever Jean Charest, at the time he was the premier of Quebec, he'd come to Ontario, I would bodyguard him because I was French. So just little things like that, that stuff that people don't you see in everyday policing that you wouldn't even know that we do. 5 years with the emergency response team and then joined the K9 unit. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that it's been one of the highlights of my career, one of the most rewarding jobs, but also one of the most frustrating jobs. Dogs don't speak English, and we don't speak dog. And the whole thing's about communication because you have to communicate with an animal that has a brain of its own that can make decisions and that has a biting end on it. You're responsible for that biting end. So there's a whole dynamic that comes with that. And people would often say to me, "Don't you wish Cash could talk?" It'd be so, I go, that sounds like a great idea at first, right? That would make things so much easier. But he's in the truck with me every day, and he's heard me on the phone, and I've said some incriminating stuff. And if he could talk, I'd have to put him down really, because he could sewer me so quickly. Um, Great job. And I think one of the biggest rewards from working as a handler is not just helping people, catching bad guys, rescuing people in need, but at the end of the day, it's the free therapy. Uh, every day finished by playing ball with a dog. And you think back when you were a kid, all you wanted to do was play with a dog. And I got to do that every day, no matter how crazy the day was. At the end of the day, it was just Cash and I and a ball on the lawn. And man, that kind of therapy, I you can't put a price on it. It's hard to explain, but it sure was a privilege to get to do that. And just to wrap up the career piece from there, I went to uniform recruitment, which was completely different area. Everything I did was frontline, kind of tip of the arrow. And recruiting, was more like a desk job. And I thought, I don't know, but they needed some French people to do some French recruiting. And they need somebody that wasn't afraid to go and talk to people, to go recruit, go shake some hands, go kiss some babies, go tell people how awesome this career is. And I was like, man, I've got lots of stories. I've gotten to do a lot of fun stuff. And that's why I think I had success as a recruiter, was sharing real life stories that people could connect with, where they're like, I want to do what you do. Exactly the same way I felt when I saw my recruiter, where his stories had attracted me to this career. And it was a godsend. I'm so grateful for the 30 years I spent in policing, what it's done for me as a person, the people I've met. It's provided me a great life. I met my wife through policing. I have nothing but gratitude for having had the opportunity to serve as a police officer.
Man, what a powerful story. I want to ask the question that I already know the answer to, but the question I would definitely be asking myself if I was listening, what kind of dog is Cash? Or was
Cash
Cash?
was an Italian Shepherd, which they say is a mix of Belgian Malinois and German Shepherd. Um, and the reason people often ask, why do we use Shepherd or Shepherd mix? And it's a really cool question. Why don't we use pit bulls? They're great biters. Um, the simple answer is shepherds are not the best at anything, but they're second best at everything.
Oh, wow.
So if you think a greyhound's the fastest dog, yeah, but a shepherd can run really, really fast. And a husky has the best coat of fur for the winter, but a shepherd has a double coat also, very warm. Pit bull bites the hardest, but a shepherd bites really hard. Some will say a certain breed might be the smartest, but a shepherd's very, very smart. So there's a dog that leads the pack in every specialty, but that's pretty much all they're good at. Whereas the shepherd's number two at everything. So they're great for what we do, whether it's military application, police application.
That's fascinating. My grandfather had a white shepherd when I was a kid, a German shepherd, and that was a really smart dog, and he was a lot of fun. He trained him to do all kinds of cool things. But I'm curious if you have any stories or what story you could share with us, maybe from an operation where Cash was prominent or saved your life or somebody else's life or just something cool.
Well, I've got kind of I'll make it a two-part story. I got to save his life first.
Wow.
In training, we were training, the training, Canine Academy was outside of Gravenhurst in Muskoka, beautiful area in Ontario, central Ontario. And we're training in fields and forests and some rural areas. I was doing a training track, so another handler that was on the course left half an hour ahead of me. All I know is like wherever this car is, that's where he left from, and he's gone somewhere. So that's part. I've got an instructor with me, and I got to work my dog, learn the things that I've learned to direct the dog, see when he picks up on the scent, and we're going to go find this person. So just a training track. Just so happens that where the supposed bad guy was hiding was an old shed kind of barn. There was really tall grass beside it. And nobody knew, but there was sheet metal in that grass and some sheets had fallen, but the grass had grown all around it, and you'd have never known that was there. As we got closer, just the way the wind was blowing, Cash was starting to air scent. He could smell, oh yeah, that's the smell of been falling is coming from over there. Wind was blowing it right in his face. So now instead of nose down, it's head up, following the scent that's getting stronger. And that's a great sign as the handler. You're like, okay, yeah, we're getting close. That's when you tell your backup, okay, we're air stunting, like get ready, like this, we're getting close. So as Cash is going with his heads up now, and we cut through that big tall grass, and a sheet of metal cut the inside of his rear leg and cut an artery. So I didn't even notice at first. So we get through that tall grass, bad guy's there. I give Cash the ball, and I start seeing blood squirting everywhere. And I'm like, whoa. So I look at it. The dog didn't even know. Cash is just happy he's got his ball. So I look, oh my God. So I clamp down on his leg. The instructor, was a good friend of mine, he was Sergeant Campbell. He was also my coach officer when I got on the job, and then he trained me in canine. Says, okay, let's get in my truck. And I said, okay, let's stop at my truck. I always carried a big medic pack from back when I was a paramedic. Had some IV fluids, like different things. Grab the pressure dressing, tourniquet, put on the dog's leg. So now you got a picture. I'm in a green, like olive drab green tactical uniform, which is what the canine unit wears. I'm hanging on to Cash. I'm in the back of a Suburban. The vet's 5 minutes down the road. We walk in the vet through the front door. By now, my greens are covered in blood. I've got blood on my face, on my hands. There's a bunch of, I say, a bunch of seniors sitting there with their cat and Fluffy, waiting for their needle. I come in with a dog covered in blood. Doc, this is an emergency. And they're like, oh my God. Right into the operating room. And the doctor says, stay right here. You keep that pressure on, get a muzzle on him. So they operate on him right there and then. And I got to assist with that and to be there. So they fixed the artery. They couldn't reattach it. They sewed it shut. And it just so happens that Cash was scheduled to be neutered the following week. So the vet's like, oh, since we're here, why don't we do this, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah. Now, the story is great because it ends well, but it's also funny because after all this, he had to spend the night there.
Yeah.
I come pick him up the next day. So now the look he gave me, so he's sitting in a cage with a cone on his head, no balls, and a big bandage looking at me like, what the hell? I thought we were friends. Because all he remembers, I found the bad guy and I woke up in this strange place. What have you done to me, right? So I always felt that since that day, I think in a weird way, he knew that I was there for him. And we always had a very, very tight bond. So I say, he saved my life in more ways than one just by being in my life, keeping me sane, probably. But that was a big moment right at the start of our relationship that really set that bond for us. Um,
Yeah. Man, what a great story. Yeah, I've gotten that look from a couple of dogs when you go to pick them up. They're like, "What happened, man?" We're like homeboys, and you just put me in here, and now I'm less of a man.
yeah,
And
I thought we were friends.
so, what do you feel like you learned about trust and teamwork working with a canine partner so closely?
It's a great question, Kevin, because one of the talks that I do is leadership that I learned from a police dog. And it's so simple yet so effective. The way, I'm going to compare this as life lessons, especially if you're in a leadership role. When I show up at a call, something as simple as my truck with two little words on it, canine unit, could diffuse a situation. You get there, something's rowdy going on. They're like, listen, we're bringing in the dog team, and oh yeah, yeah, whatever. And everybody's rah, rah, rah. And all of a sudden the truck pulls up and they see canine unit. Whoa, okay, we're done. They haven't even seen the dog. The truck could be empty for all they know. That could be enough, right? So I say, as a leader, what's it say on your door? Before people ever meet you, you're the brand new boss at a company. What do you put on your door? Do you put anything? Do you have your name? Do you have big boss? You're communicating before people even ever meet you. And I really saw that as a canine handler, that just the thought of us coming or the truck appearing could communicate a whole lot where people it would give up. Then they're seeing the dog. Now, because if you ask anybody, how do you think a dog communicates? They'll say they bark. That's how they talk. But there's so much nonverbal communication that happens. So now you take the dog out of the truck. So you might be at a call and they see a police dog. Whoa, don't want none of that. They've seen videos on YouTube what police dogs can do. So I relate that again to leadership as the boss. You're brand new boss at a company. People are going to see you for the first time. What's What's that reaction gonna be? What like do you look welcoming? What's that connection gonna be? Because you're gonna say a lot just by being there. First time people see you. So for a police dog, like I did that look for you earlier when Cash would just stop breathing and stare at someone. When I take him out and walk somewhere, I'd park the C's. Like nobody, like they see this police dog, he's focused, he's eyeballing you because we're coming to get you, and everybody gets out of the way. As a leader, is that what you're going to project? You haven't even said a word yet. You're going to go walk the shop floor as the new boss. Is your demeanor part in the C's or is it a welcoming thing? Like, hey, yeah, I'm part of this team now. And I got to observe how people reacted to my dog because as a canine handler, when you show up, you are in a position of leadership. You kind of, even though there might be somebody higher ranking than you at the scene, you call the shots when you get there because you know how the dog works. And, you know, depending on the wind, you're going to do things a certain way. And so I learned a lot about communication, just stuff like that. It's one of the big things I learned about leadership, let's say. And one of the ones I like to say is I learned to stay in my lane. One of the big lessons. So there's a job as a handler. My job is to provide a safe environment for the dog to do his job. But there's a reason we've got him there because he's got abilities. He's an expert in detecting stuff. My lane's to be behind him holding the leash. And as a boss, sometimes people think that, well, I'm the boss. I can go in anybody's lane. Yeah, sure you can. You have to be careful how you enter someone's lane, especially when they don't expect you. So I was training Cash we're working on drug detection. I was getting him to smell a shelf. And at first, you guide them with your hand. They'll go sniff wherever you touch, they'll go sniff. And then they quickly learn, okay, I just sniff all the shelves. So while he was doing that, I'm standing behind him holding the leash, and I saw something on the shelf that caught my eye. And he was smelling kind of over to the side. So I just went over to pick up this thing, but corner of his eye, he caught me going there, saw my hand up there, figured I want him to smell there. So he jumps up, top of his head, bottom of my chin, perfect uppercut, boom. I wake up, there's another officer standing over me going, hey, Vinny, Earth to Vinny, how many fingers do you see? And Cash sitting there looking at me like, hey, are you okay, buddy? Like with this look, like what happened? And people would ask me, like, were you mad at him? I go, not at all. That was my fault. I jumped in his lane unannounced. And so about leadership, be careful how you jump in someone's lane unannounced because you might buck heads. There's a way to do it. Just because you're boss doesn't mean you just get to jump. Maybe invite them in your lane where it's safe. And, so little things like that. Oh my God, I could write a book of how much I learned from my police dog.
Oh man, what a great analogy. And I've had a dog do that to me. Fortunately, it didn't knock me all the way out, but like, ah, man, I was like, man, that hurt. Like, are you okay? Like, are you concussed? Like,
Yeah.
man, dogs are resilient. But I love what you were talking about because I think like the most powerful leaders can be led too, and that takes humility. Like I don't need to just 'cause I'm the leader doesn't mean I have all the answers or I'm always in charge. And like if I can't make the people around me feel safe, then they're not going to co-create with me. They're stuck in this kind of reactive, fearful place, and like that's the more stress you have, the more likely it is you're gonna make some sort of decision you normally wouldn't make that's not going to serve you. And I'm
Yeah.
curious how you develop that skill of really making the most prudent decision in high stress situations because when I get really stressed like anybody else I feel like I'm a little dumber like I have less access to my brain. I'm like, where are the keys? Like I've never seen a key before. And like
Well, that's a great question, Kevin. And that's a big thing about in policing because we are in stressful situations. A lot of the stuff we learn, even simple stuff like how to access the gear on your belt. In a stressful situation, your hand-eye coordination might not be as good, your gross motor skills. So we want to use simple movements. That's why the belt's designed the way it is. And it's muscle memory. I know that even in stress, if I throw my hand, I know I'm going to feel my gun and I know a lot of repetition and simple, keeping things simple. So when we get into high stress, I don't want to do math while I'm there. I want to have a simple solution. I know, okay, I'm going to do this. If that doesn't work, now these are my options. And as a canine handler, the beauty of that is anytime you're going in a stressful situation with the dog, you have the emergency response team with you. So you've got backup. You're the tip of the arrow. It's the dog, the canine handler, and then your team. But the tactics are different. There's more people to cover your back. The team is there to cover you, to watch you. because I'm watching the dog. I'm not always seeing what's going on all around because I have to watch a dog and his behavior, see how he's acting. One, to know if he's on something. Two, to see like, okay, do I need to direct him? And again, like the way his ears were, if his ears were right back where I could just see the tips, I knew like he's in the zone. But sometimes you're doing this at night, and the dog, Cash, was black, so now I'm going by feel on the leash. Okay, the way he's pulling, and and I'm going around trees, and it's really a dance. So I think not everybody can be a canine handler. We have a tryout. We have our Hell Week, which is 10 days. I don't know why they call it a week because it's 10 days, and it's 10 days of physical exertion, sleep deprivation, see what you're made of. How are you going to be after 4 days without sleep? Because if you're a type of person that's like grouchy and can't compute, well, the dog feeds off your energy. Everything the handler feels goes down that lead. So imagine if you've just had a long day, you're on a search, you did 20 kilometers and get called in the middle of the night because little Timmy got lost in the cornfield. And I'm tired, so I'm grumpy. So I'm gonna go out. It's 2 in the morning. I'm gonna go open the kennel to get cash out. Come on, let's go. Gotta go find this kid that got lost. Oh, this sucks. I wish I could. What do you think the dog's feeling? Oh my God. I'm tired too. Did I do something wrong? Like Vinny's really upset right now. Geez, I wonder. So you gotta fake it. Hey, come on, Cash. Yeah, I know we're tired, but let's go find this guy. Come on, you got this, right? And the dog's like, oh, I'm tired, but this can be fun. I don't know what we're about to do, but I'm in, Vinny. So I think there's some natural the way we're built, some people are just good at that, where some aren't as good as that. We all have our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things that helps when you become a handler is to have that type of demeanor or skill. And I think that also translates in being able to be calm in stressful situations, assessing and reacting, not
Yeah.
throwing fuel on the fire, but stepping back and going, okay.
Yeah, I would concur. That makes a lot of sense, because I feel like dogs are like their owners. It's like there's no bad dog. It's just how they've been treated. And
Absolutely.
it's like you can tell pretty quick, like I don't like dogs. I'm always a little concerned when somebody says that to me. I'm like, why?
I had a t-shirt that said if my dog doesn't like you, I probably won't either.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Dogs are a
think
great judge of character,
and
and they're so good at reading people. Way better than we are. We think we're good at reading people. Trust me, a dog reads you top to bottom really, really, really well. They're so attentive and they pick up on things that we might not pick up on. They're I want to share a little story with you about attention. I was searching a car for drugs. This was a highway traffic stop where people had been drinking and there was evidence of use of drugs. So I happened to be close by. Cash was trained to detect 9 different drugs and firearms. So we're going to search the car. And, found a bit of dope in the front seat. And I'm trying to get him in the back seat. I'm like, oh, hey, buddy, come on. And he's just not coming. And he's looking at me and he's scratching at the seat where we had found some dope. I'm like, yeah, yeah, we already got that, buddy. And I tug on the leash again. I'm in the back seat of the car now. And and literally he looked at me like in the most human way. He took a pause. Look, dummy. It's what I felt his look was saying. I'm the expert. I found something. Come back here. So I'm like, and I felt that. It was like this major, awesome communication moment.
yeah.
So I went back to the front seat and I'm like, all right, buddy. And I start pulling around the gear shifter and the loaded pistol slides out from behind the plastic casing. I'm like, oh, what a good boy, right? So now I yell out to the officers because the two occupants are outside. I'm like, we got a gun. So they get taken down. Take the dog. I'll reward him for finding the gun. But then now we got to finish searching the car. Long and short, we found another gun hidden behind the glove box, loaded 9 millimeter, that
Thanks.
came back to an attempted murder 5 years before where they had the bullet inside the person that didn't die, but they never found the gun.
Ooh,
Had I not paid attention to my dog's communication, we would have missed all that.
ooh,
So they
man,
are very smart, and there's so much we can learn from them. And that's the beauty as a canine handler is when you get to know your dog, where you can communicate. And literally with just a look, he reminded me, hey, buddy, I'm the expert here. That's why you brought me. Because really, as a canine handler, you're the executive officer to the dog. You're the dog's servant. You drive him around to where he's needed. You prepare his meals. You book his appointments for him. You pick up after him when he goes to the washroom. you're really his personal assistant, right? If the
Yeah.
dog could drive, I would have lost my job.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, that's cool. That shows the humility you had as a leader. And I think that's a powerful testament to that. All right. Well, one more thing I definitely want to talk about. One of the things that a lot of people I work with are going through, and I've gone through in the past, is some sort of burnout. Just not wanting to do whatever it is anymore, just not having the energy, or just feeling just spent on all angles. And I'm curious, especially with policing, what separates the people who thrive from the ones who burn out and just don't make it?
That's a really good question, and that's really on the forefront. And I'm proud to say that the Ontario Provincial Police really, in our neck of the woods, we really lead the way with mental health supports for our members. Leaps and bounds that we've taken. I don't think there's a set rule. I think some people are just naturally born with a bit more resilience in certain areas than others. Some people process stress better than others. I would say definitely some of the key things that I think helped me. One, I think fitness was big. Fitness, part of my everyday life, and it's a way I believe in, healthy body, healthy mind. Everything works together. So that was one of the big things. Knowing how to decompress. I've always been able to just relax. I love sleeping in. I got no problem crushing a night watching a movie, and just doing nothing. And again, in the canine world, where it could be go, go, go for 5 days in a row, and you're working on very little sleep. I learned that from Cash, is just how to shut it down. When we'd play ball, that was the off switch. We get home, no matter how tired we were. The work collar came off his neck. I took my uniform off. We went on the front lawn, and I had a Kong on a rope, and all right, I'd throw the ball, and I'd be lying on the grass while he's chewing it, and he'd look at me with this big smile while he's chewing the ball, like, "Hey, isn't life great?" Like his look just said it, like, "Hey, we're good, right?" And I was just like, "You know what? Yeah, I gotta just chill out, like just like you are chewing that ball." I don't think there's a miracle cure or magic equation for how to be better at processing that stuff. But I think the biggest thing is not being afraid to talk about it or to ask for help, because even that comes in so many different forms. A lot of the police officers I worked with, if they were having a bad day and they're going to talk to somebody, they want to talk to a cop. Like, I want to talk to somebody else that does the job I do, that wears a gun belt. They get it. I'm talking to a cop. Other police officers like me, I don't so much want to talk about that stuff with the officers I work with, like, but I want to keep it in-house. So our association has a great program. One of my best friends was the president, Rob Jameson, who started this program called Encompass, where I could dial a 1-800 number, whether I needed a dentist or I need to talk to somebody because I just saw some really bad stuff. I'll always have a live person on the other end, and it's in-house. And then and a great program. I've used it a few times. It's helped so many officers. And then there's other officers I know that they don't want anybody at work to know. They'd be like, I want to talk to a complete stranger. And so we have a program through the Ontario government,
Cool.
where we can call and it's unlimited support. Because when it comes to mental health, I think there's different flavors based on the way our DNA is. I always say it's just like church and religion. There's different flavors. Some people are, you know, they like the peppy and the loud singing, and some people are more solemn. Yeah, it's just a flavor. What flavor goes well with you? What's your spiritual palate? Well, what's your mental health palate? What does it associate with? And you find that channel, and don't be afraid to use it, to talk, to ask for help. So I think once you find what your palate is, where you are able to receive, it's to engage that. Don't wait till everything falls apart to engage it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's great advice. I think, number one, being present, like you were talking about, just making that a practice to enjoy the small things, laying in the grass, playing with the dog, just be present to your own life. Because if you're just constantly thinking about what's next or what's already happened, it's just restlessness, whether that's anxiety, guilt, whatever it is. And that can eat you up. And how you do anything is how you do everything. You're going to show up with that in your relationships, your performance, the way that you lead, and
absolutely.
just asking for help. People love to help. And, like if and if you want to help other people, just listen. And so many people just don't feel heard. And like, you don't have to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a coach or a therapist or anything. Just, hey, how are you doing? And listen without
Hmm.
judgment and be present. And that's some life changing stuff. As a coach, some of the most powerful conversations I had are the ones that said the least. They're like, man, that's amazing. You helped me so much. And I'm like, I don't think I said anything. Like, but that's good.
It's a connection. And again, reverting back to the dogs, that I think that my wife had given me a birthday card once that said, "Remember when life was so simple, all you wanted was a puppy?" And I think everybody could relate to that and go, "Yeah, I remember when that would have made my day." And working as a canine handler, I felt like every day I got to experience that at the end of the day when the collars came off. It was like, all right, it's just a boy and his dog now.
Yeah. And then you got
That
to take your dog to work too. I mean, that's everybody's dream, right?
Oh,
Like,
hey. I say it was the best job. You're frontline policing, you're helping at regular, excuse me, at regular calls, but you're also involved in some pretty neat stuff where you get to really affect change in lives. And whether that's by protecting people, by catching someone that needs to be caught, or by finding someone that's lost.
yeah.
Taking drugs and guns off the street, that's saving lives. So it was an awesome, awesome role to be in. I was honored to wear that patch on my arm, that's for sure.
Man, that's great. Well, I got one more question and then we can head out. And this has been a lot of fun, though. So I want to know what freedom means to you here on the Unlocking Your Freedom podcast. How do you define that?
Freedom. I think freedom, one would be being comfortable with yourself in letting yourself be yourself. I I don't feel that I'm confined in my, like if I think of myself just right now, if you ask me, why do you think you're free? Well, I'm free to go where I want. I'm free to say what I want, free speech, all that. But inside, as a person, I really feel free. I feel I'm content. I have a roof over my head. I go to bed every night with a full belly. In the morning, I have options as to what I want to wear. I have so much, there's abundance in my life, and that abundance gives me freedom, freedom to make simple little choices like when I want to eat, what I want to eat. And we live in a great country where we have those freedoms. And I think also part of being free is recognizing that you have that freedom. Don't ever take it for granted. Whenever I see somebody in a wheelchair or with a cane that has a eye impairment, or I was in I say to my wife, I'm beaming a little prayer at them because I can't imagine what their day must be like, but it makes me grateful that I've got my legs. And I somehow, I say, beam a little prayer that I don't know what your struggles are like every day, but I hope that today's a good day for you and that you'll have everything that you need because I have freedom. I don't have to worry about some of the things you worry about. And I think that's true freedom is having the freedom of choice, whether it's where you go, what you eat, what you do, the freedom to use your body. You know, I guess in a really simple nutshell, that's how I would see it.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I love that. Man, tell everybody where they can find you, connect with you, follow you, all the things.
Sorry?
Like, where can people go to find you online,
Oh,
social
well,
media?
I just launched a few months ago this great website Geneviève Rochon and her team put together. VinnyHick.com. It's very simple. VYNNY. I'm Vinny with a Y. So
Oh,
VYNNYHICK.com. And people always say, why a Y? And I'm like, the true story is because it was personalized license plates back in the 80s and Vinny with an I was taken. So, but now I use it as Vinny with a Y because we all have a lot of whys. Why can't I do this? Why do I lack this? What we need are some hows, some how to's. And I love sharing insight to get the answers to your whys. So vinnyhick.com. That's where you can find me.
man, that's brilliant. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. It was a lot of fun, and I can talk about dogs all day. So this was right up my alley.
Thanks so much for having me. It was an honor to chat with you, Kevin.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Well, hey, everybody, make sure that you give us a like and share this out so somebody else can find Vinny too, because he's got a great message. And if you haven't checked it out already, the Rocky Mountain Reset coming up September, kevinkepple.us/retreats. See y'all next time.